Hi, everybody. Welcome to summer season for Talking Books with Tanisha. I was really thinking about what the best way was to do this summer season. And my intention is not to give you weekly updates around what I'm reading, but to instead kind of theme together some books that you can be thinking about this summer as you're thinking about all the time that you have. We are one day away from the beginning of July. I intentionally started today because not all the school districts were out yet, which means that everybody has opportunities to do some free reading. So officially, the latest district is now released for summer break. So you're ready for your summer reading list, and I'm ready to give it to you. Today, I'm actually going to give you 3 sets of books that you can start looking at, thinking about, enjoying the author, or kind of navigating new stories maybe you haven't read. So they are in 3 piles. I'm actually looking at them right now. And I'm going to wrap it up with the book that I'm currently reading in case you're interested in doing that one too. My goal is to give you lots of different selections, but really the goal is to read. The goal is to really be enjoying stories and sharing stories with other people. So just like any time, please feel free to share what you're reading. Keep reading, keep sharing your stories, get them into the hands of both young and old people alike. We don't get to share enough stories. And right now we're actually being threatened with the kind of stories that we get to read. So you're going to see the theme in the books that I'm sharing are probably the books people may not want you to be reading because you should be reading them. So let me start off with an author that I actually discovered last year in San Diego at Comic-Con. He was there as part of a panel moderating. Adam Silvera is his name. He's a young adult author who has really great stories, and most of his stories are centered around queer youth. And so I want to share with you a selection of Adam Silvera books that I've been reading, that I've read since last summer. I've read more than the books I'm going to be sharing with you, but I think it's a really great author to be introduced to. So here they go. Some books that you might be thinking about from Adam Silvera are More Happy Than Not. The idea of what happens when we think about things like depression, loss, and grief, and really trying to navigate how we love, how we care in friendships and relationships. This is called More Happy Than Not. It's a really great book. There are some trigger warnings around suicidal ideation and grief. And I also think that's a really great story for people to read when they're just not sure kind of how they're feeling, what they're going through, and need a place of kind of like solace or understanding. So that's the first book. History Is All You Left Me. Another book dealing with loss. And one of the things that Adam Silvera will talk about is that he's not scared to talk about mortality. He actually really does introduce that in most of the books that he is writing and sharing. And so mortality is a theme that you will read about. One of the best books that I've read by him is They Both Die at the End, which is a really great story. It's hard, but it's also a really great story. It's how I feel about all of his books. So this is really about a person who has a first love, a guy who has a first love, his boyfriend dies in an accident. And so kind of how are you dealing with that grief and that loss, especially when it was your ex relationship, but you still have those really deep feelings about that connection that you had. So History Is All You Left Me. And it's really written in a very beautiful way where you have a chance to kind of feel and experience the relationship. Okay, these are probably my favorite, not probably, they are my favorite Adam Silvera books, and they come in 2. So the first one is What If It's Us? This is a book that I actually had on my to-be read list, my pile for a while. Took me a second to pick it up, and I'm really glad that I did because I was really obsessed with the story, and I automatically had to get the sequel. So it's about Arthur and Ben who meet in New York, and this book actually inspired me to order cookies from the bakery they talk about a lot. So if you feel inspired to kind of visit a little bit of New York as you're reading it, that's how great this author writes the story and helps you visualize being in the middle of the city. But he writes it with Becky Albertalli, who I'm going to talk about a little bit because I had never read a book by Becky Albertalli before, and she's amazing. So the 2 of them together have a really great story and a really great flow. This one is called What If It's Us? Kind of what happens when these 2 people meet together, like is it meant to be, is it not meant to be? And then the sequel, Here's to Us. And these books together must be read back to back. You know, I believe in like reading sequels in sequential order as soon as you can, because they build right off of each other. So if you're going to read anything this summer by Adam Silvera, something that makes you feel kind of good, you like a good love story and a good romance, these are the books I recommend for your summer reads. All of them are great, but these are the two kind of summer feels for you. All right, that's Adam Silvera. Let's get to another favorite author of mine who also happened to be on that book panel at Comic-Con last year, and that's Nick Stone. And Nick Stone has a way with words, a way with stories, and a way of introducing the voice of like youth. And one of the books she actually wrote because of the youth, we're like, what about our story? So I first want to introduce to you Dear Martin. And I've talked about this book before, and it's amazing. It's a really good, sweet, hard, powerful story around friendship, around what it means to be part of a neighborhood, but not part of the neighborhood, what it means to question your identity, what it means to question your Blackness, really dealing with things like police brutality, dealing with family. All of those things are mixed into Dear Martin. And it's really based off of the main character named Justyce. And his goal is he has a homework assignment where he has to like keep a journal he's writing to Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he kind of keeps that going as a way to kind of test his character and to kind of, have a place to kind of put his feelings. And it's really powerful. So this is Dear Martin. Again, this is in twos. Then you have Dear Justice. And so one of the characters introduced in Dear Martin is actually the main character in Dear Justice. And in this one, the character Quan is actually writing letters to Justice. And the friendship and the deep kind of loyalty that Justice feels for this person that he kind of grew apart from over the years plays a really powerful role in the kind of the collection of this story. These definitely go back to back. So you definitely want to read Dear Martin first, because it kind of sets the groundwork for everything. And Dear Justice is the one that Nick Stone wrote in response to the readers, the young readers, saying, what about our story? Like, are you gonna be able to tell our story too? Because our story isn't really reflected in Dear Martin. And she does a beautiful job of doing that here. So these are the two books I would say read back to back. Another fun book is Jackpot. So this is kind of like a mystery, fun. The idea is that there's like a big jackpot for the lottery, and someone has won it. And we have to figure out where the missing ticket is. And there's a little bit of like manipulation, relationships, questioning, definitely about class and poverty, also about wealth and excess. I like this one because it's a little bit different than definitely a bit different feel than like these two books. But it's a really fun feel, and also kind of brings up the idea around, what will we do for money? How far are we willing to go? So that's Jackpot, really great summer read. This is a fun one. This is called Odd One Out. So the idea that two best friends, one guy, one girl, the girl really is not necessarily interested or attracted to guys until her best friend, who is a guy, becomes attracted to another girl. And all of a sudden she starts wondering, is she like him? Does she not like him? She also starts feeling feelings for other people. Sexuality plays a really big role in this book, and questioning, and also friendship, and thinking about just kind of like who we are in the middle of all of that. It's a really fun one. It's written in really kind of a fun way. Again, Nick Stone has a really great way of kind of changing her narrative and her voice and her sound. So it's really a little unpredictable every single time. Which ones are my summer picks? I'm going to go with Jackpot. So I think if you're going to read some Nick Stone, all of these books are beautiful. Summer read, a little bit light, a little bit fun. I think Jackpot's the one you want to read. So please think about that as you're thinking about your summer picks. I have one more pile for you. Like I said, I'm doing them in themes. So we're at the very end of Pride Month, and it just seems really important to like point out that there are lots of books by queer authors, and there's no excuse anymore not to have opportunities to read and learn, and also just enjoy the stories that feature queer protagonists. So many of the books that I just mentioned also have that too. So you don't have to have a story designed around identity or gender in order to really enjoy the story. But I also specifically picked out ones that do. So this one is called Things We Couldn't Say. And I love it because it really goes into the intersectionality of looking at a male of color who also identifies as bi, and is like, kind of navigating this idea around, who he is and, what part will he share. And he's not necessarily out, not necessarily, people don't know who he's attracted to, but he's also learning more about himself. And he was abandoned, like his mother left him. And so he's really struggling with the idea of, of like that feeling of, will anyone love me? Does my mom love me? Am I good enough? There's lots of things that are mixed into this story, and it's beautiful. The way it's written by J. Coles, this book is a really beautiful book. And of course, Nick Stone gave a little bit of a plug and a shout out there on the cover. So Things We Couldn't Say, really fun book. Sorry, not fun, but really fun book to read, and also really interesting book to read. And I love the cover, actually. The cover is really beautiful. There you go. This is a really fun read. 6 Times We Almost Kissed and the One Time We Did. I like how they tell this story. Every chapter is kind of counting down. It's about 2 friends who have grown up kind of like as frenemies. Their mothers are best friends. And one of the moms is going through a pretty serious sickness. And the 2 of them end up having to live together during the summertime. And so kind of this tension that's building throughout the whole book, but also a lot of education around like, okay, who are we? And are we friends? Are we not friends? Do we like each other more? And they kind of go through the 6 times that they almost kissed. And so we have a chance to kind of hear that story. This is by Tess Sharpe. The last one is the one I was telling you about by Becky Abertalli. So she, again, is the one who co-wrote this one with Adam Silvera. This one is called Imogen, Obviously. And Imogen is like the best straight ally, is how she describes herself. All of her friends identify as queer, and she's like the ally and kind of the rally person, and that holds them all together and loves them so much and does so much she can, like, to really be a person to support them. Up until the point where she realizes, I wonder if I'm questioning my own, sexuality right now. And she might be. So this book is really about her giving her own questions, really thinking about who she is, and also kind of falling to this trap where she's like, she tells her best friend who just came out as lesbian. Her friend tells her that she told all of her friends, her new queer friends, that Imogen was her girlfriend, and also her ex-girlfriend. Imogen's coming to visit her at college. And so part of it is her pretending to be in this relationship and her really thinking about, what am I feeling, and are these feelings real? I'm not going to spoil for you like the whole who the attraction is with and what all the things that happen with that. This is a really fun one, and actually I think it's a really honest one for anyone who might be questioning, especially for people who feel like that the bisexual identity is something that is confusing for them, or even any of the labels that people have been using as far as like pansexual, asexual. There was a new term in there called allo-cis-het, which I had never heard of, allo-cis-het, ALLOCISHET. So it had me Googling some things, which I thought was actually really important. So there's lots of Googling that was happening for me around just understanding some of the language that was being used. And I like that Becky allows you to do that. She doesn't tell you anything. She really wants you to take some time and kind of learn it for yourself. And in that way, we become better allies as well. So I forgot to tell you which one I would choose. Actually, I didn't. Out of these 3, which one would I say is probably your best summer pick? I'm gonna go with this one. And it actually is on a list that just came out for one of the best summer books for this year. I had to go get it to see if they were right, and they were. It's a really great story. All of these books, by the way, came from 2 independent bookstores. The first one is Third Place Books. So if you are ever in the area, Third Place Books is an amazing bookstore. They carry lots of different books, lots of representation. And the other one is Page 2 Books. And again, they have a really great selection. They both are local small bookstores who have great big inventory and work really hard to make sure the books represent the people who are coming into the store. This is like the first dump of summer reading books. There's more to come. Like I told you, I've been spending this whole year just kind of gathering books together, getting ready for you. And so the summer season's about fun. We have so much time. If you don't have time, take some time to rest and relax and to read. Speaking of reading, what's my current read? James Baldwin, Giovanni's Room. So I've read a lot about this book and the idea that people should read this book, and I'm taking my time with it. I'm on page 68 right now. It's kind of a smaller book, so it's only 169 pages. I'm taking my time because it's actually written really beautifully. It takes place in Paris, which I had a chance to go to early in spring. And so I'm really learning and seeing some of the things I experienced. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I really love how it's written. James Baldwin's an amazing writer. It took me a while to kind of get into actually reading his books, not just reading his quotes. So that's the other thing, is that I know we use a lot of quotes from really like legacy authors, but we don't always invest in the books. So taking time to invest in some of the legacy authors also. All right, everybody. So to review, Adam Silvera, Nick Stone, these 3 books that are available to you at any of your local bookstores. I think that's enough for now. I'm going to come back in a couple of weeks and give you some more books to think about. But so far, that's what I have for you. And I want you to enjoy them. Most importantly, just enjoy whatever books you're already reading. It's summertime. It's a great time to catch up and escape a little bit, and to have some fun and to relax. And don't forget to rest. Make sure your body takes time to hydrate and takes time to rest. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of summer season for Talking Books with Tanisha. We'll do about 2 more and that's it. And I'll get ready for the fall season, which I'm so excited to share with you. Lots of great things coming up. Have a great day. Enjoy your time. Happy reading, everybody.